Hey everyone, and welcome back. So, today we have a snowflake who thinks that misgendering someone is an act of violence. Have you ever heard anything more stupid? Oh well, it's a dirty job, but someone's gotta do it. Anyway, without further ado, here we go. Enjoy.
In 2014, Laverne Cox said that misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
No, it's not. Whatever the hell gave you people that idea? I've said this before, and I'm gonna say it again. Violence is when someone walks up to you and punches you in the fucking face.
What's wrong with your face?
Or to put it another way, violence is when a bunch of assholes kidnap you, hold you for 48 hours, beat you up, and cut pieces of your head off. The fact that they called him a white fuck while doing it is pretty much inconsequential, don't you think? It's the violence part that people get upset about, you fuckhead.
Since then, she has repeated this statement multiple times, but some people still don't want to believe it.
Yeah, and you're surprised by this? You can tell me that the sky is green and that seashells really are made of gold as many times as you want. I'm still not gonna fucking believe you.
So I thought I'd explain why intentionally misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
Yeah, go ahead, I dare you. I fucking double dare you. Explain to me how using the wrong word is violence.
There's going to be a judgment day, and it happens to be today.
But to get started, we need some definitions. Misgendering is the act of referring to someone by the wrong gender or implying that they are a gender that they are not.
Holy shit, dude. Just seeing you brings up cosmic amounts of comedy. I mean, what the fuck are you? Is tranny a gender? I mean, seriously, don't you think that in a video where you tell people how bad it is to misgender people, you should have fucking told them how to gender ya? You think that might have been a good idea? Ah, fuck it. To me, you look like a tranny, so you're a he. Moving on.
So if you call a boy she or refer to him as a girl, that's misgender.
Actually, it's probably an insult, dumbass.
You can misgender cis people or trans people.
Cis people are those guys from Star Wars, right?
But it's particularly dehumanizing when done to trans people.
Of course it is, because everything is worse when it happens to you.
And it's something that basically all trans people have to deal with at some point.
Oh, boo-hoo. Imagine not having any fucking arms. Now that's something to deal with.
Of course, there are times when people intentionally misgender feminine cis boys.
Wait, what? It's against the rules to misgender feminist boys now?
Or masculine cis girls.
Oh, I see what you did there. So it was feminine cis boys. Alright, if you have to string together 3 labels to make your point, you might just be obsessed with labels. Or, retarded.
As a way of trying to reinforce arbitrary gender roles. And that's awful as well.
Why? Because you said so? You're gonna have to work a little harder than that.
But I'm mainly going to be discussing misgendering towards trans people in this video.
Yeah, because fuck normal people, am I right? Why don't you throw in a fuck white people as well while you're at it?
Violence is a harder thing to define.
Well, there's your problem. You think violence is harder to define than a gazillion Tumblr genders? Fuck off. Xer and Z and Zeeghile, those are hard to define. Someone clubbing you over the head, not so much.
We're going to get to the bottom of this. And when I leave here, I'm going to have somebody's ass in my briefcase.
Several dictionaries say that it involves the use of physical force, including the Merriam-Webster and Oxford dictionaries.
And we all know how much you feminists love the dictionary definitions, so I guess we're done here.
However,
I said we're done here.
Dictionaries are not intended as all-knowing, unchangeable rulebook. They change and adapt over time as our usage changes.
No, you mean feminist need for a dictionary changes and adapts. I mean, for fuck's sakes, people, after all those thousands of videos where you quoted the goddamn dictionary definition of feminism, and now you have this? Are you fucking kidding me?
They are almost always descriptive rather than prescriptive nowadays.
Apparently only when it suits your fucking agenda, though.
I would argue that their definition of violence is outdated and doesn't encompass all of the forms of violence we recognize today.
Hey, moron! Fucking moron! Violence isn't fucking quantum mechanics, asshole. No matter how high-tech our weapons get, it's still just a matter of one guy clubbing another guy over the head. Or something equivalent. Sometimes the outcome is lethal, sometimes not.
I like to watch.
It's not fucking rocket science, though, and we don't need a whole new word for it every time someone figures out a fancier stick. And we don't need to change the fucking dictionary every time someone figures out a new way to hit someone over the head with a stick. You get it yet?
And the World Health Organization agrees with me.
So the hell what? They're not in charge of words, are they?
In their 2002 World Report on Violence and Health, the WHO defined violence as the intentional use of physical force or power threatened or actually sexual against oneself, another person, or against a group or community that either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, maldevelopment, or deprivation.
So the hell what? It could have been defined as a turkey sandwich for all we care. Has it dawned on you that the World Health Organization might have an agenda they'd like to push, and that's why they've made the definition so wide as to include everything? No, of course it hasn't.
This definition is purposefully broad.
You think?
The WHO recognizes in their report that violence is culturally influenced and varies widely across the globe.
Well, I think you may have found their agenda, idiot.
What some people see as violence, others may not.
Yeah, war is peace, freedom is slavery, and ignorance is strength. You see, if people can't even say what they mean, then how can they mean what they say? And if they can't mean what they say, then what they say doesn't really matter, and neither does their votes.
However, in an effort to fight violence worldwide, this is the definition that the WHO came up with, and it explicitly includes non-physical forms of violence.
Well, you see, then you're not just fighting violence, you're fighting thought crime.
They say physical force or power, and they note that power isn't necessarily physical. It includes all types of societal power imbalances.
There already is a word for that. Coercion, or extortion. It's kind of like how every time you don't rob a liquor store, it's kind of because the government is coercing you not to do it because you know they will respond with violence if you do. However, with your definition, that would absolutely be classified as a violent crime. The governmental exercise of power, that is, not your robbing the liquor store. Which is ludicrous.
Plus, their definition states that violence doesn't have to result in physical injury or death. Instead, it can result in psychological harm.
Well, seeing as how butthurt you were about the election, I guess voting is an act of violence then too, huh?
Given that this is the definition that experts on the topic of violence have come up with...
Oh, okay, so these experts on violence, are they like MMA or boxing?
I would argue that it's a much better and more effective definition than the one currently listed in most dictionaries.
No, really, asshole. You think you bitching about the definition of some word is gonna help you from getting misgendered, Trini boy?
Therefore, violence does include psychological violence.
No. Please, lady, you don't understand. You don't know what you're doing here.
And misgendering a trans person is absolutely an act of psychological violence.
You're just saying that to make me happy, aren't you, fuckboy?
If you still, for some reason, have a problem calling it violence, then call it aggression or abuse or whatever you want.
I call it bullshit. Happy now?
The point is, it's a bad thing that we shouldn't do. Ask any trans person and they can tell you how awful being misgendered makes them feel.
Okay, how about putting some makeup on that Adam's apple then, huh?
It's a way of invalidating their identity. It makes them feel disrespected, isolated, uncomfortable, and hated simply because of their gender.
I don't hate you because of your gender, if you even have such a thing. I hate you because you're an idiot.
It tells them that they should hide who they really are, that people will never fully accept them.
Well, in your case, that's not such a bad idea.
Misgendering a trans person causes real psychological harm.
Not as much as voting for Trump, though.
And not only that, but it contributes to physical harm, too. Lots of factors contribute to the extraordinarily high rates of suicide among transgender people, but misgendering is definitely one of them.
Oh, really? Well, in that case, it's inevitable, isn't it?
According to the 2014 National Transgender Discrimination Survey, 4.6% of the U.S. population reported that they have attempted suicide at some point in their life, while that number was about 41% for trans people.
Hey, idiot. You think that may have had something more to do with the fact that they were born in the wrong body?
However, studies show that having a supportive family, like people who don't misgender you, can greatly reduce that rate. The 2015 U.S. transgender study found that the rate of suicide attempts for trans people with unsupported families was 54%, while it was 37% for those with supportive families.
Hey, fuckhead, it's pretty funny how you didn't mention any other group who have parents who hate them. I'm pretty sure that's like the universal sign of suicide or something.
Plus, misgendering contributes to a culture where violence against trans people is terrifyingly prevalent. A 2013 study by the National Coalition of Anti-Violence Programs found that trans people, and particularly trans women of color, were murdered at much higher rates than other LGBT plus people.
Okay, so instead of trying to find out why that is, you'd rather sit here and bitch about some guy on the internet calling some other guy gay, or her, or him, or whatever the fuck it is. I mean, for fuck's sake, I don't even know what your fucking preferred pronoun is.
Don't blame me. Blame my gender.
Misgendering may not cause someone to go out and murder a trans person,
but let's bitch about it anyway, because once everything is defined as violence, then nothing is violence. problem solved, right?
But it does contribute to a culture in which hating and disrespecting trans people is the norm.
How? When? Where? You haven't shown any of this to be fucking true.
Which does allow some people to justify violence against trans people.
Violent people will justify violence because they are violent people. Period. I mean, if they had half a brain, they would realize this is not worth going to jail for 20 years.
However you look at it, misgendering trans people causes real harm, and that applies to all trans people, not just the ones you like, because there are some not-so-great trans people in this world.
Wow, was that like a passive-aggressive jab at Blair White? Real classy dude.
Just as there are some not-so-great cis people.
Anyone! Oh, pick me! Oh, I know, me!
But everybody deserves to be gendered according to how they identify.
Nope, they really don't. They just deserve human rights. That's it.
There are so many ways you can insult someone without disrespecting all trans people.
Really? You're gonna lecture us about insults? Let's hear some of those insults right now. I bet you can't even come up with one.
And I know that sometimes you'll misgender someone unintentionally. Maybe you didn't know their pronouns, or you just made a mistake. That's fine. Just correct yourself, move on, and try not to do it again. You don't need to apologize profusely and make a huge deal out of it.
Yeah, that'll happen. Who in the hell does that?
And all of this includes non-binary people. If someone asks you to use they, them pronouns,
Fuck off.
you should know that misgendering a non-binary person is just as hurtful as misgendering a binary trans person. Non-binary identities are valid as well.
Jesus Christ, do these people pay you by the word? I haven't heard such a huge collection of nonsense in my entire life.
So, intentionally misgendering trans people is an act of violence.
No, it's not. For fuck's sake, you guys, do we really need to go over the 1984 stuff again? I'm done. Fuck this shit. So, thanks for watching, you guys. I just gotta go clean out my ears with bleach now.